Hello and welcome to the Permission Mission Show. I'm your host, Mary McElhatton. Thank you for joining me here today. Uh, all of you out there who would like to continue joining in, please know that you can jump on board with the Facebook, WWDBTV.com Facebook, and also Permission Mission Facebook, as well as Mary McElhatton uh, Facebook, and also the YouTube for WWDBTV. I want to just, kind of recap last week. First and foremost, I do want to just ask you this question as we start off today's segment. So, question I was asked many years ago was, what is the mortality rate in Las Vegas, Nevada? I paused for a moment, just probably like you did. What is the mortality rate for Las Vegas, Nevada? Well, it's 100%. Not only in Las Vegas, Nevada, but it's 100% worldwide. There was a doctor who actually told me that it was 90%. And I said, 90%? Okay, where's the other 10? He said, my patients, Mary. I said, right, give me your card. I want to hook up with you. I want to live forever too. That is the goal, right? None of us want to talk about mortality. However, it is so different when you do. And I am a living proof. Please know that I am not a psychologist. I'm not a counselor. I'm not any professional when it comes to the scientific part of it. But I am a person who has experienced so much loss in my life. And at 14 years old, like I've shared in previous shows, is that I was the kid at 14 years old that lost my brother and sitting inside of a funeral home and asking all kinds of questions because I really wanted to know. I was very curious and I witnessed what death does to a family, that I've been on a journey since 1981 to figure out, why is it that we don't talk about death and dying when it's happening 100% of the time. So this will bring you peace of mind, knowing what to do and knowing how this can affect your family. And if you just take some steps by listening to the show here, Permission Mission, and getting more comfortable, it's not like it's going to take all the hurt or all the other things that we really don't like dealing with when it comes to the topic death or mortality or loss or grief or anything that's tough around this particular this particular subject. I'm going to just tell you that if you stick with me long enough and you continue to keep watching and take advantage of calling in to ask questions, I promise you, you, just like me, are going to get more comfortable with bringing up the subject because let's just face it, all of us have, most of us have families. Some of us have spouses, some of us have children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. And wouldn't it make sense that we are giving ourselves permission to talk about such an important subject? If you haven't had a loss, I hope that doesn't happen for you. But for people like me, it already has. And many of the people that I have close in my life, it already has. And so our goal is to make sure that we're just talking openly, proudly, boldly about what is important, and that is mortality. Did you know that when you have an idea of what happens when a death occurs, that you do feel a little bit more comforted? Believe it or not, I work for the largest funeral home here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I have found more peace in the understanding that when a death occurs, having some knowledge, having some education, and that's what I'm here today to talk about, is that it's not so much how we die, because obviously we know that there's so many different ways. And we could continue on show after show after show of how many different ways people have passed on. But the importance of today is knowing when we pass away. Because as a mother of 6 children and 9 grandchildren and a loving husband, um, I want to make sure that we have the discussion ahead of time so that I'm not leaving anybody in the dust and I'm not leaving them unprepared and that I'm not leaving them with the things that are important to me as far as my wishes. So it's not so much about how we pass away, but it's more about when we do. And I also have a tip for you today that it's been something that I've used every day to ground myself before I get in my car, before I get onto the roads, because I don't know if you've experienced some of these Las Vegas roads. I'm sure they compare nothing to the California ones. And they are still very scary. There are people who are out there driving 100 miles an hour who may have not seen my show yet, but I promise you they will. And it can change the way that they're running every single day, 120 miles an hour, sometimes not even going anywhere. Because if it's not freshly on our mind, we simply just kind of get caught up into the minutia of life. I'm guilty. Having a lot of children, having a lot of grandchildren, having a lot of activities to do, getting kids to their sports and picking them up, I sometimes lose track myself and I'm starting to speed a little bit. And then I remember where I work. I remember what kind of work I do and the importance of it and how I can continue to get the message out to you, like today, that if we just slow down and if we acknowledge that death does happen, I think some lives can be changed by it. So, if you do want to call in and ask those great questions, please feel free to do so. The number here, 702-992-3207. I welcome your questions because, again, I don't have all the answers. I simply just have the experience of losing those close to me. That at 14 years old, when somebody said to me, Mary, look, just sit down. It's okay. Your parents will handle what we're here to handle today. And everything's going to be okay. Well, everything wasn't okay. And I didn't settle well with keeping my mouth shut and not continuing to ask questions about how does this work? Why didn't anybody tell me this? Last week, I had a beautiful, beautiful gal on the show, Karina, who shared about the loss of her infant child, Adriana Noel. And I had asked her the question, prior to this happening, did anybody ever sit you down and talk to you about somebody passing or that this happens? And she said, no. I said, you know, I too. Nobody sat me down in school and said, look, I think it's important we talk about this. I think it's important that you understand that this happens in life. I even remember, just as a little girl losing pets. And gosh, that was devastating. Yet it was just kind of like, they come here and they go, and that's kind of it. So I can see even for those families out there, those people out there who didn't have children like I did, and they lose their pets, which are their children. By the way, I had a Shih Tzu for 14 years. She was the love of my life. My kids used to tease me. They'd say, Mom, you love the dog more than me. I'd say, yes. Yes, sometimes I do. The dog greets me as I come home every day from work. The dog never asks for my keys to the car. I don't have to worry about my car getting wrecked. And no fire hydrant is going to be taken out by a car. Maybe messed with a little bit by a dog, but hey, come on. That's just the deal when you've got those pets. But my heart goes out to those who have had no children and they do have a pet, and that's going to be one of my shows, is actually acknowledging and honoring all those pets that all of us had, that people kind of just say, well, get another one, or they're just a dog. Well, geez, that would be like telling me, hey, you had a child, I'm sorry, you'll get through it, just go have another one. So you see how not talking about mortality can sometimes be hurting us more than it's helping us. And the platform that we have here, with the help of my wonderful producers, Aaron and also John, we are getting the message out that this conversation is not going to be silent anymore. So I thank all of you for staying tuned, listening to what I have to say, and also taking it to heart so that you too can bring this into your home, sit down at your table or in your living room or in the bedroom with your spouse and say, look, I think it's time that we have this conversation. And Mary said that we had permission to do it because I don't want your family to go through what I witnessed in my family, the fighting, the arguing, the bickering. Again, that just comes from not knowing. When you know what to do and you have some ideas, it certainly brings some comfort to that day when a death occurs. I don't know if you're like me. I don't want other people deciding for my life, and I certainly don't want other people deciding for my death. I want to have it all planned out just the way that I can because it's important. It's not even planning for our death, it's planning for the life well lived, whatever amount of time that is that we get. So, there are some stresses that come along with this conversation, right? Let's face it, yes, lots of stress. I woke up this morning, I was stressing out like what really what business do I have to talk about mortality on a day-to-day basis? Well, what business do I not have? Because I just don't want people to be uninformed. I want them to not be stressed out about it. I have my vintage people. Vintage, I've shared it in past shows. Vintage means if you're over 50, you're vintage. I am vintage. Welcome to the vintage club. Here's the deal. So for us, it does start getting a lot more stressful as we continue to age. I had a wonderful conversation with my mother this morning, who's turning 89 this year. And I was talking to her. I said, Mom, is there anything you want me to talk about on the show today? And she said, No, Mary, I think what you're doing is great. Now, mind you, she was a mother who's buried 3 children. And she is so thankful that I am doing what I'm doing because she has found so much peace and so much comfort in knowing that her life has purpose too. Just because that happened doesn't mean anything other than it happened because it was their time. She said to me that she has felt a lot more joy over the last few years, the last 10 years that I've been talking about mortality and saying, hey, it's okay. We can talk about it. I talked with Karina yesterday. She said, Mary, I just feel lighter. I feel like I don't have a secret anymore. And that's kind of what it feels like when you have lost somebody you love. It's that secret that keeps us weighted down and it becomes stressful. We don't need to carry this kind of stress when we know that we can talk about it. So, one of the tips I have for you today is called the 5-second rule. Now, five obviously is FIVE. The F is going to stand for favor inside. Now, favor inside means that I'm going to favor the road and my space. I'm going to think about me when I'm making that decision to go through the McDonald's drive-through that I swore that I would not go this week on Monday, and here it is Friday, and I found myself in the drive-through a couple times. Not really, not at McDonald's, but let me tell you, there are a couple other places that I could maybe go less to. I love food, I love coffees, and I love all that good stuff. But when I'm thinking about the 5-second rule, I say, okay, Mary, is this favoring inside of me? Am I thinking about the life I want to live, or am I just living in the moment? So favor inside, and then value everyone and everything else is the V and the E. So when we're valuing other people, we are considering them their space on the road. We are considering standing in the Walmart line when it's out the door, and we maybe have an event we need to get to, but we started late in the first place. Value those people. Value those people who are grumpy, because we all know that sometimes we are grumpy ourselves. So I know it's silly and I know it's goofy to think that a 5-second rule can change anything for you, but I promise you, it has definitely changed things for me. When I'm dealing with a teenager, a 17-year-old daughter right now, who tells me she's in love with her boyfriend that she met just 3 months ago. Let me tell you, I've got to settle myself down for a second. It's stressful. You would think that I have this under my belt, but the reality is she's different than my other four before her. She's different. I tend to get a little bit more freaked out about her because she seems to be a lot more quiet. I'm not quiet, so I'm like, hey, you got to speak up. Please tell people what you think. Find your voice, because here her mother's doing it, right? But she'll come into her own time. I don't need to stress about it. She's a great kid. She's going to live her life and she's going to live it the way she wants to. And I encourage that. So the 5-second rule, I do it a couple times a day because, again, I find myself stressed out, stressed over the simplest, really silly things that do not need to cause me stress when I want to live my absolute best life. And I'm promoting other people to do the same. So the 5-second rule. Today I'm going to talk about things. A lot of the decisions can be overwhelming. People ask me all the time, they say, Mary, how do you bring up the conversation? And what I would ask you is, how would you like me to bring up the conversation? There's not an easy answer. The only way we're going to get through the uncomfortableness of 30 seconds is to actually say, I'm uncomfortable bringing this up, but I think it's important that I talk about it. Couple episodes I said, talk to your families about whether you want cremation or burial. That is the hardest decision somebody will make on somebody else's behalf. But when you make it, it can make all the difference in the world. Because when that day happens and you remember what your loved one said, there's not going to be a question. There's not going to be that, did I do the wrong thing? Or is it what they would have wanted? It's going to be a certain yes. This is what they said that they want. And I'll follow through with their wishes. The other thing is, I want to make sure to let all of my guests here watching the show today to take a look at what we have here that I use as a wonderful tool on starting the conversations with my families. So this is called a personal planning guide. It is just a comprehensive guide to help start the conversation and really be able to write down some of those really important questions and answers so that on that day, your wishes will be carried out just the way that you want it. I also like to promote this as, if you ever wanted to write a book, here's your chance. It's real simple. This book will guide you, and this book is in your handwriting, and this book is from your heart and from your mind and from your thoughts. And this book, I hear hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories uh, through the last 10 years because of how this book has been used as a tool. So, a couple of the questions that it does ask. Did you guys know that obviously when a person passes away, there's about 100 and something questions? I'd say about 125 questions. It feels like 200 questions when you're in that moment, and it can take hours. Hours being in front of people you don't know, and hours taken away from family that we want you to be with. So some of the important information is death certificate information. I know it's like, however, death certificates work exactly like birth certificates. You can't do anything without them. So you are going to need them. So it's important to know what kind of questions they're asking. This was a very precious moment for me when I was sitting bedside with my father as he was in hospice. And I was asking him these personal questions. I just wanted to know. I knew his career, but I wanted to know, like, Dad, what is something you love to do? Well, my father was not only a military Navy senior master chief. He was owned his own pool business in California, and people loved him. People just adored him because he was like, and he did everything with excellence. It was like, you want your pool clean, your pool's going to be cleaned. And he never overcharged, and he just did simply great service for people. So when he was talking about his favorite career, which was cleaning pools, I was like, geez, Dad, you've done a lot of cool things in your life, cleaning pools, serving our country. And I also asked him a question that kind of took me back for a second. I asked him who his mother was and who his father was. Well, he knew his mother. And then his father, he actually said, Mary, I was adopted. Dad, I didn't know that. And then he told me the story. It was beautiful. I was like, gosh, this is a precious moment. I know something about my dad that I never knew before. So it was awesome for me to hear what he had to say. Where your parents names, where you were born. I know a lot of people who don't have parents or didn't grow up with parents, my mom included. Her parents passed away as she was an infant. So it was kind of like when you ask somebody who hasn't been with their parents their entire life, it's like, whoa, I didn't have parents to grow up with. However, if you know their names, that's great. And if you don't, that's okay too, because some people didn't. Of course, if you have been married or widowed, all of these things are going to go on a death certificate. Your social security number, you may have known your loved one's social security number the whole time you were married to them. But on the day that you've lost them, you're not going to remember it. So this book is so important for us to have write our own information, because we can answer this question way better than anybody else, and just make sure that it's completed ahead of time so that no one has to guess at anything. You're getting the answers correct right off the bat. And that's even if you don't have an answer for it, it's still okay. So we still have a lot more to cover. Thank you again for being here at the WWDBTV live stream broadcast show today with Permission Mission. We're going to go to a break, and I'll see you right back here in a minute. Thank you, and stay tuned as I continue to share ways to open up the conversation in your home so that you can help not only yourself know what your wishes are, but also help those who may be a little bit more resistant to it than you, to help them get through it and be okay with this topic called mortality and preparing and finding peace in it. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Are you looking for someone to provide training to your staff? Do you need a motivational speaker about how to handle change? Do you have an upcoming event that needs an MC to handle those responsibilities? Well, look no further than longtime Las Vegas radio personality, Aaron Phillips. I am local to Las Vegas, and I can blend my talents with any audience. For more information, please visit www.aaronzauer.vegas and book me for your next.
My name is Edgar Alejandro. I'm the co-founder of Rising Again Productions. So we've been here in Vegas producing films for the past couple of years, and we've seen our fair share of studios. We worked in our fair share of studios, and to be honest, WWDBTV has been our favorite by far. John is so welcoming. The space is wonderful. It's perfect for what we need. We've had rehearsals here, we've had callbacks here, we've had table reads here. So if you're a Vegas creative, or really just a creative coming into Vegas, definitely check out this space, chat with John. I think you'll find that this studio has everything that you'll need as well.
Welcome back to Permission Mission. For those of you who are just joining in, my name is Mary McElhatton. I am the host of today's show, and we are discussing a topic that's difficult, yet not too difficult to have if you understand the value of it. And we're talking about mortality. We're talking about answering the question why we don't talk about death when it's happening 100% of the time, and how I can help you get through the uncomfortableness of about 30 seconds to help. Maybe you have a parent or parents or somebody in your family who this is important to talk about. And also, I encourage anyone like me to have the conversation openly and boldly and proudly so that we're more aware of what to do when the day happens and families aren't scrambling on our behalf. So, I talk about what is a great tool that we use, and this is called the Personal Planning Guide. This is a wonderful tool to help any family sit down and start the conversation in their family. The first page that I went over was the important information, which is about death certificate information and what it requires. You answer the questions yourself because it's way easier to do that than trying to run around and figure out what these answers are on somebody else's behalf. And even if you did know, as far as where your mother was born or your mother's maiden name, on a hard day, it's not always going to come to you. So I find a lot of families get frustrated because they know these answers. Some of them do, and they get frustrated. And I'm simply wanting to make sure that people are not frustrated on that day, that we're educated on that day, and that we have the comfort, have more comfort knowing than not knowing at all. One of the favorite pages is it's called Your Legacy page. And this is a brilliant way of capturing our life story. Think about it. Not everybody knows these little stories that we may have shared or not shared. I shared earlier in the show that I didn't know that my father was adopted until literally, I was at his bedside in hospice and asking him these questions that I needed to be able to produce his death certificates when that time came. And he was really, it was a special moment for us. I remember there was a point in time that I said, "Oh my gosh, this is so hard, Dad." And he said, "No, listen, I know my days are numbered. But on the other hand, Mary, you're going to sit and stress about it. So do something about it." Little did I know that this is the something I'm doing about it today in honoring him, because it was precious. And I think people miss out on the opportunity of how precious it is when we are able to talk about it ahead of time without hesitation, and knowing that it's just important as any other event in life that we celebrate and that we can honor the person's life. It's not honoring their death, it's honoring the person's life well lived, depending on how much time they have. Your legacy, my earliest ambitions, my earliest ambitions. It may take you a minute to think about that. Things that made me laugh. When I think about things that make me laugh, my first right off the bat is my husband. He's pretty funny. He's just, it's one of the reasons I married him. And he just has a way of making me laugh over the silliest, simple things. My proudest family moment. What moment is that for you? What if you have shared it 100 times, but you have to remember on this day when we've passed, our children, our family, our friends, Everybody wants to hear it again because this time they're listening. My proudest career accomplishments, my favorite songs, my favorite flowers, what I love the most. You could even put in here what you didn't like the most. I mean, it's you can get creative with this. When my father, when I was asking him for a few songs that he liked, he actually gave me a list of all the ones he didn't. So I was like, okay, Dad, this is helping me, but not so much. You've given me everything you don't want. I need a couple of songs that you do. We got through that. Genealogy, family history. No two of us are alike. Again, think about that. No two of us are alike. When it comes to planning out our final arrangements, it's personal. It's what I want. It's what I like or what I don't like. It's uh, something that we'll experience alone in the end, yet not alone if we're talking openly about it with all of our family and friends while we're here. When you're planning for a service, if you want a service or not a service, do you want an urn? Do you want a casket? Do you want wood? Do you want metal? Do you want to release doves? Do you want to have a mariachi band? What do you want? What's important to you? A final resting place. Final resting place is something I personally used to never think mattered, which was really interesting because I used to always go back to my brother's grave and just take a moment to sit and reflect and just think and gather my thoughts because sometimes in life it's not always good. But if you can sit in a cemetery and gather your thoughts and think about how precious life is, all of a sudden the worries and the problems seem to go away. So, a resting place. Do you want by the water, away from the water? Do you want with family or on your own? When Karina was talking in the last prior show, she was sharing about how her daughter is laid to rest in a cemetery in her little small hometown, and that it was important to her to have some family with her at the end. Maybe have make sure that if you're planning for yourself, but you want family members to be with you, that can be planned out too. I actually have a friend whose parents had lost a child and they bought like 8 plots like 30 years ago. What a gift. They locked in those costs of 30 years ago. Today, those costs are going to be a lot more than they were 30 years ago. And all the family gets to be together. People to contact. This was a big one for me. I didn't realize my children don't always know who I talk to. They know some of my friends, but they don't know my people that are still important to me that I don't talk to on a day to day basis. It's important to jot these people's numbers down because they will want to be notified. Travel, huge misconception out there, lack of knowledge out there when it comes to travel. If you're traveling and you're enjoying life, that's what we want you to do. I want to keep doing that myself with my husband and family. But if you're not protected, if something should happen, there's a lot of paperwork, there's phone calls that the family has to make, and there's a lot of expenses that come with that. When you think about this in advance, you're able to pre plan an away from home travel protection. It just helps you keep enjoying life and never worry about if this happened or when it happened. You would be taken care of and brought safely back to your family at a very minimal cost, under $500 for the rest of your life. We hope it's never used, but I'm telling you that I have seen where it has been used or it was needed and they didn't have it. So please know. Couple other pages again, if you've done an estate or a will. I have a gal who's going to be coming in and talking more about will and estate. Also, financial information. Uh, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Facebook, did you know that if your family doesn't have the password, they're not able to shut that down if they choose? Sometimes it can be painful to a family when they're seeing all these different posts when from people they may have never met. and all of a sudden they're experiencing a loss. Again, depending on how that loss happened, they may not want to see people posting on the Facebook. So keep in mind, again, we're just being educated. My very, very favorite page in this entire book is a letter to my loved ones. And it is my wish that my final goodbye is a reflection of all I have been and loved. This planner includes personal information and details concerning my final agreements. Please know that it is thoughtfully prepared with you in mind, and I hope these pages will relieve you some unnecessary stress and guesswork at the time of my death. I also hope that these pages serve as a lasting memory of my life. So, to my cherished family and dear friends, I leave these thoughts of my love. The thing that I remember most about my father, the gift that he left, was he left messages for his kids, his grandchildren, his great grandchildren. He even had messages for his great great grandchildren that are not even born yet. And as a family, listening to this from a man who had just passed away but had it prepared, it simply was a gift. It was if my father said, "Look, now we have permission as a family to open up and talk about this day and have some insight about it and permission to plan it just the way that we want it, with having all of us kids in mind." Now, some families don't get that opportunity, and my heart does always hurt for them because there's no time, right? People assume that we have a lot of time, and sometimes that's just simply not the case. When we are talking openly about mortality, we're educating those younger ones to, again, just take some time to realize the importance of their life is the same as the importance of passing. I think we've kind of disconnected. There's a big bridge between life and between death. And mission is simply, with your help, wanting to bring it together. No matter what time we get in between, that's important. But even a child of one day makes a difference in this world as if they were here for 94 years. It's something I didn't expect, but when I officiated a service for a 5.5-month-old, and then I officiated a service a week later for an 84-year-old, the love was the same. There was no distance between how much love and impact that child made as to that gentleman who had been here on this earth for quite some time. So that's what talking openly and proudly and boldly about mortality can bring to us, to somebody else, to the passing of somebody who's already passed, is just finding the peace in all of it and having some preparations in place so that we just don't have to guess. So, how can you get a beautiful book like this? How you can get it is by going to my website here, permissionmission.com, and just linking into contact me, and I'll make sure that you get your own copy. Even if wherever you live, I will make sure that you will get your own copy so that you can write these important questions down, or answers down to the questions that most people don't think about ahead of time, but you're going to have the opportunity to do that. Here's what I tell my children, and soon I will continue to keep talking to my grandchildren. They're still a little bit young. I tell them, my children, I said, "Look, this is my roadmap for when I take a trip of a lifetime. I would never take any type of trip leaving anyone uninformed and without the important things that are needed to make it a great trip." So that's what I tell my kids. Of course, I hear the, "Oh, mom, you're not going to die. Oh, mom, please." That's silly. But I'll tell you again, hundreds of stories about these beautiful books that have captured people's life story, and at the day a family's able to open it up and feel some comfort, because personally we won't be there on that day, or physically we won't be there, but we could definitely be there emotionally. And that's what's going to make the difference between a family being prepared and one that's not. So we are going to go to another break. Please stay with me. I have some more information that you'll find very valuable, and also talk about the upcoming show. For those of you who want to share this information with somebody else, please go to the WWDBTV website.com, and then also to the Facebook page. It'll also be posted on Permission Mission Facebook page and Mary McElhatton Facebook page, to make sure that you copy, paste, and share it. Share it with those people that weren't able to watch today's taping. I think they'll thank you for it. They may get a little like, whoa, wait, why are you sending this to me? Kind of, response, but possibly not. It may be the opposite. It may be, thank you, because I have aging parents. I have vintage parents. They won't talk to me. And please understand, it's not their fault. Nobody's been talking about this for a very, very long time. Long before I was born, it wasn't spoken about. We are now, just now, getting into giving people permission to talk about end of life preparations, because the more we become comfortable with it, they will become comfortable with it. So stay tuned. We're going to go to a break, and I'll see you right back. Mary McElhatton.
Business owners struggle with the following issue. How do I brand my business to get noticed? Double Eight Design Studio helps businesses by designing brands that boost confidence, look and feel timeless, stand out from the competition, and attract all the right clients. Whether you are in need of a new brand, upgraded design elements, or completely redesign your current brand, Double Eight Design Studio has fully customized packages for your business. Call Chelsea McKendrick at 702-525-3334 and visit www.double8designstudio.com. Let Double Eight Design Studio give you a brand new outlook for your business.
Welcome back. Hello, my name is Mary McElhatton. I am your host for the Permission Mission Show. Today I've been talking about how to open up the conversation of mortality. How do we plan? What are some tips to be able to overcome the uncomfortableness of it? Because it is going to be uncomfortable for a couple seconds, and then once you give yourself permission to continue to keep talking, you'll see that it will lessen each and every time that you're bringing the conversation up. I have been talking about this beautiful complimentary, this is a free personal planning guide that I will get into your hands as long as you reach out to me at my website and contact me directly. I will make sure that you get your own copy to be able to document your wishes on paper. These books can be handed down for generations to generations. I think about one day that my children's children's children will be able to read my handwriting and the book that I have filled out myself. And I've added some pages through the years to pass this down as a legacy book, to make sure that those ones in generations beyond my passing that are entering into the world, if my name does come up, which I'm going to make sure it does, that's why I'm doing Permission Mission, is so that they can learn about me. This is what this book will do for you and generations after you've passed, is let people learn about who you are, and that we don't have to be forgotten because we've passed, that we can create a lasting legacy. I've heard it that way. We can create traditions in our family again. We can sit at the dinner table and have hard, tough topic conversations again, because this is the toughest one. So if we can get through this, we can get through anything. I wanted to make sure that did you have something, John? I love my people in the back here. I've got a question.
We had a question in the chat room.
Yes.
That you probably can't see. It says, At what point should this book be filled out?
Oh, well, at what point would be yesterday? When you reach out to me, I'll get it into your hands, and I'm going to guide you on the most important page to fill out right away, and then one page at a time after. So the sooner is always the better. I have my daughter, who is now 17. She filled this book out when she was 13. That was a very proud moment for me because it kind of gave me some validation of what I'm doing matters and that she has a different understanding about this than my older kids who will not even talk about this book, let alone fill it out. They will one day, though, because they'll see that their mom has and that their sister has, and that it's okay that we fill this out. It doesn't do anything other than just have wishes in writing that you want. If you wanted to take another step of actually pre-planning, I can give you that information as well. But the first step and the free step and the easiest step is just get this book filled out one page at a time. And you'll go to my website, permissionmission.com. And I was practicing this early in the show. Okay, you guys, that's the only reason why I have the right finger up underneath this is because I practiced it for a minute before the show. You'll contact me and I'll make sure that you get your book. You may want it for a couple of your family members. I'd be more than happy to get them one as well. I appreciate you checking into the show today, watching. Thank you for sharing. Please go and like I said, copy paste, share it. Any comments that you would like to make, I will make sure that I personally respond to them. If you have something you personally would like to talk about, have me talk about on the show, post those, post that on my Facebook, Permission Mission Facebook, or even when you contact me for the book. If there's something that you'd like to know more about when it comes to this, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to share. Next week's show is going to be it is going to be about how people have passed, and we're going to it so it's more. I was asked by somebody to talk about it. It touches my heart. It will be a tough show for me to do, but like I said, I'm signed up for this for life. I'm not going to let myself down anymore or anybody else when it comes to being okay with this particular conversation. And it's going to be about people who have passed of addiction, people who have passed of being murdered, people who have passed that maybe shouldn't have passed the way that they passed, but they did. And I'm going to just share some ways that I personally have been able to just acknowledge their passing because I have had it in my own family. And I know a lot of people out there have had it in their family where they've lost somebody due to an addiction, to having their life taken, or an accident. And that is going to be the next show. I will make it as light as possible. Please know we're in this together. And that is my whole purpose, is just to make sure we're talking together and not being alone in this particular subject. So have a great week. I'll see you back next week. Again, my name is Mary McElhatton with Permission Mission.